Hello everybody, this is Dr. Novak. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here. What I wanted to talk about is research that has been done on the Anoxic filter. Also at the end of this video, please stay tuned for the end. If you are a subscriber to my channel, remember I talked about getting rid of the 90 gallon and the 40 gallon breeder. I was going to give it away. Well, I bought a stand, get up to date on the giving away of the SAE Aquarium 90 gallon and the 40 gallon breeder. Because what I'm doing is I'm getting rid of those two tanks and just getting a 125 gallon aquarium. And I got a stand, a metal stand. So I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the video. But right now what I'm going to talk about is I was alerted about Environment International. And Environment International is a research that took place. Basically, it's a research by a lot of different scientists. And what they have done is research the Anoxic filter. And this is a copy of it. It's quite extensive, the article written on the research here. And I'll leave a link so you can click on it. And if you want to read the whole thing, because they give diagrams, all the references in the article. But there is a few things that I thought I would bring up in this because of the fact that so many people, hobbyists I should say, not so many people, a lot of hobbyists, they ignore the science of the Anoxic filter, which I did the research on. And let's see, over 40 years ago, I introduced it to the, world, if you want to say that. But a lot of research has been done on it. Dr. Frankel from Italy did a lot of research on it. And of course, now we have the Chinese, which have done a lot of research on an Anoxic filter. And of course, those hobbyists who diss the Anoxic filter, of course, they definitely don't know what they're talking about. Okay, right now, the research that has been done pretty well proves that the Anoxic filter does work. And this was done by a lot of scientists. This is over in China. You think that proprietary, when you do something, that you do a lot of research, but it's been 40 years, and if people want to re-research it, scientists want to, whatever, the Anoxic filter, but there's a lot of things that they talk about, in fact, and I'm going to read you just a little bit of excerpts from it, just a little bit, not much. And a lot of things they talk about is mediums that I have suggested to people. Because when I came out and did the research on this, there was a lot of different mediums that you could use. The only problem is what was the most inexpensive to use for a hobbyist. Now, I'm not talking about a lab, but I'm talking about hobbyists themselves. They don't want to spend a lot of money. And that's how I came up with the kitty litter and laterite, because it was the least expensive back then. You think about 40 years ago, quite some time ago, it was the least expensive for hobbyists to buy. Of course, kitty litter you can get at any Walmart or whatever, and laterite wasn't that hard to get. Back then, I got the laterite from Dupla. But today everything's a lot easier. But they talk about here products that I have recommended that people have asked me. And I said, sure, that will work. The only reason I didn't like zeolite, for example, I didn't recommend zeolite because of the fact of it costs a lot more than oil dry or kitty litter. That's why I never recommended it. But a lot of people can't get kitty litter, so they get zeolite. Anyhow, I'm going to read you. Interaction effect in microbial filter medium pharmaceuticals and biofilm-based reactors, a case study of Anoxic filters. Now, for those on YouTube who don't talk about it or think they know so much about it, well, here you got lots and lots of scientists researching this, and this is right on the internet, all the research they did. And basically it works. So I guess 1.5 billion people of cleaning up sewage treatment plants can't be wrong. Okay. But we all know how hobbyists are. You know, they're right and everybody else is wrong. Anyhow, just to give you some of the research, and I'm going to read it here, okay. Anoxic denitrification biofilter is a biological treatment process that uses microorganisms to degrade pollution under anoxic conditions, mainly for nitrogen removal, denitrification, or simultaneously removing of organic matter and nitrogen and phosphorus. Now, these are like exact words that I've been using, exact words to a T I've been using. When Dr. Franco also researched it and found out that it takes out phosphates. Despite its potential for simultaneously removing of total nitrogen and pharmaceuticals, different types of nutrient conditions, filter medium types, and microbial communities, and pharmaceutical characteristics significantly affect the final outcome of the reaction system. Specifically, different carbon to nitrogen, CN, and sulfur to nitrogen, SN, ratios will influence the amount of electron donors and thus the efficiency of nitrogen removal. I mean, does this sound like something that I've been talking about on this channel for years now? Exact same wording that I've been using. That some people will say, oh, no, it doesn't work. Oh, yeah, well, these people who do this, they're not scientists, okay? But this whole article is done by quite a lot of scientists. The properties of the filter medium significantly influence biofilm formation, structure of thickness, thereby impacting pollutants, degradation, efficiency. It has been shown that fluoroquinologies, FQ, promote the denitrification performance of anaerobic ammonia oxidizing microorganisms, propanol and doxycycline, increase the microbial diversity in the anaerobic ammonia oxidization system, and promote the activity of anaerobic ammonia oxidizing bacteria, contributing to synthetic denitrification. Exact words I wrote in my book and put on my blog. The existing literature offers a rareness of information concerning the decontamination and denitrification performance of biofilm reactors under the influence of multiple factors and the microbial mechanisms associated with them, which merits further exploration. Distinct microbial environments facilitate the development of diverse, dominant microbial communities, which play critical roles in the nutrient removal within wastewater treatment systems. Now, as we all know, undergravel filters and all, they all came from wastewater treatment facilities. That's why people used to have good luck with undergravel filters, and that's where it came from. And then as time went on, because of their misuse, they got phased out and people just threw their substrate on the bottom of an aquarium. Analyzing microbial communities assemble in essential for understanding community structure, biofilm dynamics, and variations in degradation efficiencies. Steering microbial communities within the ecosystem may be key to developing more effective removals strategies. Microbial communities assembly mechanisms are classified into neutral and ecological niches theories, with a current consensus that community assembly is composed of stochastic, which means outcomes based upon random probability, and deterministic processes. So, what will be probable or what will be determined of what it will do is basically what that is saying. This framework has been applied in infer biofilm assembly mechanisms under the stress of emergency pollutants, EPs, and to propose the theory of biofilm evulsion and propose the theory of biofilm evolution of interfacial exposure structure, change mass, transfer feedback in the previous study. However, the interplay between microbial pollutants, microbial community dynamics, and filter medium properties remain underexplored. Specifically, how selective pressure imposed by pharmaceutical influence microbial assembly, biofilm structure development, and functional stability in a critical knowledge gap. Experimental setups. So what that is, that introduction I have just read to you, is the experiments that they did. A lot of this information is coming from a lot of different scientists. But basically, what I have just read to you is everything I've been talking about, exactly with the experiments I did. Experiment setup. In this study, 4 downflow anoxic biofilter reactors were constructed. Does this sound familiar? Each reactor consisted of a glass cylinder with an inner diameter of 5 centimeters, which is 1.969 inches, and a height of 50 centimeters, which is 19.6 inches. One reactor was heterotrophic denitrification filter based on sodium acetate. Zeolite can accelerate the crystallization of certain zeolites, such as ZMN12, by speeding up both nuclear action and growth processes. Zeolite rocks is a natural lava material rock that can be used in aquariums. Exactly what I've been telling people, because a lot of people ask me, can I use zeolite in place of kitty litter? And I would say, yeah, but it does cost more, especially here in the United States. Zeolite costs a lot more than if you just got kitty litter. But yes, zeolite can be. It is a multi-purpose lava mineral rock looking much like kitty litter, used in bonsai trees, aquariums, and odor removal. Basically, this sounds almost exactly like baked kitty litter. As the organic carbon source, it was divided into 2 types. One was filled with ceramsite. Ceramsite is another product that people have asked me about. Ceramsite. Ceramsite is basically a clay pebbles, which you can buy on Amazon, as the biofilm carrier, AO, and the other with a PU. Another type utilizes sodium sulfide as an inorganic sulfur source for autotrophic denitrification. Also build 2 kinds of filters filled with ceramsite and PU as biofilm carriers specifically. The ceramic used had a particulate diameter of 3 to 5 millimeters. When people have asked me about using ceramsite, I've always recommended you go with the smaller. As you can see here, this is only 3 millimeters in diameter, which you can make an anoxic filter with that. If that's something, or even, by the way, you can use it as aquarium substrate, which they show in the picture, the smaller size, the 3 millimeter size, instead of using sand. scanning electron microscopic complied with energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy. Analysts in our previous study indicated major elemental composition of the ceramsite, including carbon, oxygen, aluminum, silicon, and calcium, suggests a primary composition of aluminum silicate minerals. So I will give links so in case you want to buy the Ceramsite horticulture clay pebbles, and if you want to mix it with any of the other chemicals that they suggest in here. Now, I just gave you a quick read on that, but I will read you from the main paperwork here. It says the bioceramic filters demonstrated superior pharmaceutical removal compared to PU filters. The specific surface area of pores on the surface of ceramic is almost 50 times that of PU. Both mediums contain abundant micropores, but the pore structure of the surface of ceramsite is one other of magnitude more developed. In other words, the ceramsite has more pores in it, much like I try to explain to you about kitty litter that had a crystalline structure and has pores in it. Okay, so people have asked me about ceramsite, and I said, yeah, you can use it. It was always a cost factor. Whenever I suggested anything, it was always, this is why I use oil dry or kitty litter, because it was always a cost factor. Ceramsite has a pore structure in it of just the right size, just like kitty litter does or zeolite does, and it will it'll last forever. In fact, as if you remember my last video, I did a video on my antique aquarium, and the aquarium only uses an anoxic filter. It doesn't use like gravel. It doesn't have a gravel bed. All the plants are growing in the water column without any gravel. There's a little bit of kitty litter at the very bottom, just for decorative purposes, and plus, there's some stones in there just for decorative purposes, small little stones, no more than maybe 3 to 6 or 7 millimeters in diameter, just a few for cosmetic purposes. But basically, it's a clear bottom aquarium, and all the plants are growing good. And I do have some plants in some clay pots. Okay, some crypt, and I showed that last week. But that's a tank that's running off of 100% an anoxic filter and has a BCB bag in the filter itself. With all the research that was done here, in case you want to read it, I'll leave a link. There's a lot to it. If you want to go with all the diagrams, the pictures, the references, which there are tons and tons of references. Yes, it was researched a lot by Chinese, but it was an American that did it. Some people say, well, what about intellectual property? They're taking basically my intellectual property. And I remember my wife brought that up. She said, well, that's your intellectual property. The Chinese, once again, are taking American intellectual property. And I said, don't worry about it. Come on, it's 40 years and I'm not making money off of it. I did this for free for people to help them with their aquariums and ponds. I'm not even going to worry about intellectual property in this case. They want to do the research. A lot of scientists were involved in this, and they're just writing an article about it in the Environmental International for people. I think that's great, because like I said, there's more research that has to be done. I've even said it in my videos. The trouble is it costs money and it takes time. And if the Chinese Chinese scientists have went out and researched this and using different materials, which they didn't use any different materials. These are same materials I use, but just came up with the cost factor. Okay, here they're doing a cost means nothing. But for me, it was a cost factor because hobbyists are only going to spend so much. But this is done by scientists. This isn't done by aquarium hobbyists who are looking to find a loophole and say, oh, it doesn't work. Don't listen to this guy. I know what I'm talking about. That's why I made this channel. And apparently now they're cleaning fresh waterways in China. And I guess 150 billion people can't be wrong. Okay, so this is something that in sewage treatment plants that they have found out. So let me get on to the last part of this. The aquariums that I'm getting rid of will be the 90-gallon and the aquarium, the 40-gallon breeder aquarium. Now this is all free. If you want to donate something to me, fine, but it's all free. I live in about Central Florida. So when I mean Central, it's about an hour and a half to get to the East Coast and about an hour and a half to get to the West Coast. Think about Disney. That's where I live by. I live by, close to Orlando, Florida. So I live in about Central Florida. And I'll let everybody know if you are signed up to my channel. So you may want to make sure you get alerted. So when I tell people that, hey, you can pick these tanks up, they're absolutely free to you. You just come get them. I bought a metal stand. I bought it off of the Amazon sale that they had. It was like $260, I think, which was a big savings. Normally it goes for $290 some dollars, let's say about $300 bucks. But I even got it cheaper than that for Amazon sale days. And it really is a very good steel, all steel aquarium stand. And I'll show you more about that in another video. But the first person who says, oh, I'd like the 40-gallon or I'd like the 90-gallon SCA aquarium, first person who gets it, it's theirs. It's first come, first serve. So you're going to want to stay tuned. So when I announce I'm getting rid of these tanks, and both aquariums will come with a plenum already made. Like I said, all you have to do is plug and play. Basically, set them up and put your substrate in because the plenum's already been made. And both plenums are designed where they could either take a very small power head or they can work by air. So if you don't want the noise of an air, then they'll work by power head, which is dead silent. You can run them either or, okay? You will get that. So most of the work is done. All you'll have to do is, I think what I'm going to do as a favor to the person who gets the breeder tank, I think I may give them a 36-inch Fluval light. I have a Fluval light, and I'll let them have that. I have no use for a 36-inch Fluval. So at least you can get started. So until next time, this is Dr. Novak. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Until next time, happy fish keeping.